How's it rockin', Dween Nation? You're listening to the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before you give us a listen, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we are back for some spicy, bold predictions for Week 10. A lot going on this week. It's gonna be, maybe it's too hot, hopefully not too hot, so stay on and listen, because these predictions are gonna happen. I don't know, it's crazy, but they will. But yeah, I'm excited to discuss this with you, my brother. But before we do, how you doing?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. We got some pretty spicy, bold predictions here. Justin, this is also one of my favorite episodes of the week. Kind of, this is not fantasy football all the way related, but it's just like fantasy, like hopeful, like in some ways. Like, I kind of hope this happens just because this league is so much fun, so unpredictable, and it's just like, you never know where you're going to be in root for. I always have these thoughts on Sundays at 11:50 here at Central Time. I think this is going to happen. That's going to happen. And then it just doesn't turn out that way. It goes completely opposite. In fact, something happens that we didn't even think of happening. Like, oh, that player was active? I thought that player was on IR, or I thought that player sucked. But apparently he didn't. So that's just the unpredictability of this league. And so, I'd say Justin and I, Dewey Nation, we like to kind of beat the NFL to the punch and kind of spoil it a little bit and tell you what's going to happen, give some bold predictions before they kind of go out there, so that way you guys aren't too surprised when it happens.
Yeah, and I know I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, bold predictions is never right. But look, I mean, you could look at last week in the NFL season. Somebody probably went out and said, hey, Joe Burrow is going to throw for 5 touchdowns. That's my spicy take. And everybody's like, you're crazy, whatever. 5 touchdowns. Or Mike Gesicki, he only gets like 3 catches a game. But how about 100 yards and 2 touchdowns? Or, oh my gosh, JSN, he's been a bust this year. Oh, well, how about 7 and 180 for 2 touchdowns? Like, crazy stuff happens. That's why we have this episode every week. But yeah, let's dive into it. And I'll start with my spicy, mild take of the week. And it is in Jacksonville. I have Brian Thomas Jr. Going for 150 and 2 tutties against the Vikings. They are dead last against wide receivers in fantasy this year. Brian Thomas didn't have a great game last week against the Eagles, but he has been a top 12 wide receiver this season, has had a phenomenal rookie year. And with, Christian Kirk not being there, targets are around. So it's literally Brian Thomas, Parker Washington, Evan Ingram. But Brian Thomas is the clear name that stands out. And I think he's going to have his best game of his career this Sunday.
Yo, Justin, I tell you, boy, about those LSU wide receivers. I mean, they are something special. You're kind of convincing me a little bit to just drop Russell Wilson and add Trevor Lawrence there from my starting quarterback at one of my leagues there. I really hope you're right though, because you have Brian Thomas in your league. I have Brian Thomas in our elite league.
Yeah.
And so, I definitely need a big game out of him just because T. Higgins, Mr. Doubtful, and, Jameson Williams. I'm a little concerned on that. But I like Brian Thomas. He is becoming a stud there in Jacksonville. He did have a bad game last week, so I do expect him to, he's a little bit healthy from that. I believe it was a shoulder or chest injury he had a couple weeks ago. So I do think he should be healthy. And Minnesota, they had a fairly decent game against the Colts receivers last week. And so I do think that, Brian Thomas can kind of break the mold there and have a great game. So we're hoping for that. For me, I'm getting a little spicy as well. I'm adding a little pepper flakes to it. But I'm going with old grandpa, Aaron Rodgers, the once former MVP. He's going to have a great game in Arizona, Justin. He's had some great games in Arizona against the past. He's had some playoff games against, in that State Farm Stadium. I would say one of his first years as a starter, went toe-to-toe with Kurt Warner. Overtime, it was like 51-42, something like that, 45. And then a few years later, he went toe-to-toe with Carson Palmer in that same stadium. That infamous Hail Mary, right, to send it to overtime. He did not get the ball in overtime. Obviously, a flip to Fitzgerald, and he scores. And he's had some great games in that stadium. And so I like it to kind of continue. Last week Aaron Rodgers always kind of historically shredded my Texans, so I kind of think he keeps things going. He's always had great games against the Cardinals. And so, I like him to have 4 touchdowns this week, 4 passing touchdowns. I think he gets 2 to Devontae, maybe 1 to Conklin, and maybe 1 to Brees Hall there. And so I think he's riding the hot hand. They've had a mini bye week. They haven't played since Halloween night, a week ago from today, basically. And, um, they are traveling from one side of the country to the other, but I do think he's going to be well rested, ready to go. Devontae Adams is kind of finding his stride, and so is Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson is kind of proving to be why people picked him in the first round and going into the second this year in drafts. And I don't think he misses a step. I mentioned that the Cardinals are one of the most inconsistent teams in the league at the moment. They're hot 2 weeks in a row. They're bad 2 weeks in a row. Then they have a good game. They have a bad game. We don't know if we're going to get, good Kyler and Marvin or bad Kyler and Marvin. It's kind of one of those things where it's the good angel and the bad angel. We don't know what they're going to get. Sometimes Kyler Murray can turn over the ball and put the opposing team in great fielding position. And I kind of feel like that might be the factor this week. And I do think that Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of it on his, at the line of scrimmage, quick reads and him, changing the play call. And I do think that Devontae Adams is acclimated to this offense officially. Giving, like I mentioned, they last played Thursday. He's now officially, blended into that playbook. Garrett Wilson is finding his stride. Conklin is finding his stride. They're gonna have to, throw in Malachi Corley in there. And they might throw some passes to, Braylon Allen, throw him at, receiver. And of course, it's Brees Hall. So I like Aaron Rodgers to kind of feed off that whole energy. To have a great game this weekend in Arizona.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned his history in that stadium, with obviously the Jeff Janis Hail Mary, and any other times. I feel like they've had a good back and forth, Aaron Rodgers and the Cardinals. And I think to me, obviously last week was Aaron Rodgers' best game in fantasy on the season. And I think that it's correlating to, the second week of Devontae Adams being more fully involved in the offense, and with Garrett Wilson there, he's got great weapons, just great weapons. So I do like that. 4 touchdowns is pretty spicy, but that is what bold predictions are.
Yeah, that's
I like
spicy.
that
I'm
there.
good.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you took your mild. I also have a 4 touchdown projection here as my spicier take. It's
Ooh.
coming from a new starting quarterback, and I have Cooper Rush hosting the Eagles, going for 4 touchdowns. We saw Cooper Rush lead a touchdown drive last week against Atlanta, and that's because he was just thrown into the game. Now he gets to play a division rival. Philadelphia is back and forth with being a good defense and not. And I'm not saying obviously this is going to happen, but I see a bold prediction here. We get a touchdown to CD. We get a touchdown to Fergie. I think he throws one to Rico, and he might even run one himself. But he's going to have 4 touchdowns on the week against the Eagles.
Yeah, Justin, in some ways it's spicy, but it's like I can drink some milk and get around and eat some more because, Cooper Rush he's had a history of actually performing really good there. There's been times where, like in 2022, right, Dak, gets hurt week 1 and, oh no, the Cowboy season might be hurt. And I do think Dak was on IR. And, Cooper Rush goes 5-1. And his only loss, like I mentioned in a few videos ago, was against Philadelphia. And now it's kind of crazy how, there was this matchup 2 years ago where, Gardner Minshew dominates against Dak Prescott in Cowboy Stadium. Now this could be flipped. They kind of have the skill set to go there. He threw a touchdown to Jalen Tolbert, kind of at the end of that game. CeeDee Lamb's one of the top receivers in fantasy football. And Cooper Rush, he has a dependable tight end in Jake Ferguson to dump off passes there. And I don't think they run the football much this week. I don't know how that running game is going to go with Cooper Rush at quarterback. And I do think that Philadelphia knows that. And I do think that, Mike McCarthy is going to have to develop a game plan to just surely pass the ball. They just traded for Jonathan Mingo, which, don't understand that at all. But they traded a 4th for him. So you kind of assume he's going to be that 3rd guy there. We're not sure if Brandon Cooks is going to return at all this season. And I do think that's what's kind of affecting Dallas, that kind of 3rd pass catcher. And so, yeah, I like Cooper Rush to kind of go 4 touchdowns there. It's really spicy there. It's spicy. But, I just want to, Buffalo Wild Wings, this is random. If you're watching this, we might want to get a little bit of a sauce made for us here at Doing Sports.
I would love that.
The Doing sauce, where it's
Oh,
spicy, spicier, and spiciest. And I'm kind of feeling Buffalo Wild Wings as a great potential Doing Sports sponsor in the future. Just saying, because we like to get spicy, we like to get spicier, and we like to get spiciest. And Justin, I have some spicy takes to finish our video. So for my spicier, it's a little bit of a hot barbecue habanero glaze. Throw a little bit of sriracha, maybe a little bit of some habanero extract, just a tiny drop. And I'm going with Daniel Jones finishing as the number one quarterback this week. He puts on a show for all those fans in Germany. They're going to be screaming Daniel Jones. They're going to be leaving the stadium, Justin, with number 8 blue jerseys there. The New York Football Giants. They're going to probably dominate this week, and I do think it's going to be through Daniel Jones. And you got to think about it this way. Daniel Jones, he's been a disappointment in his NFL career. Okay, let's just put it that way. But he has been prone to do good against pretty bad NFL defenses. And the Carolina Panthers, they're pretty bad, right? And I love what I saw last week with Daniel Jones against the Commanders. He had a couple rushing touchdowns. He was able to get the ball to Malik Neighbors in the second half. And Wando Robinson's been a guy no one's really talking about. He's going to be a guy that could heat up. I do like Tyrone Tracy there to get a receiving touchdown. And I like Daniel Jones to finish the week with 70 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 passing. So essentially 4 total touchdowns there. I like Malik Neighbors to score. I like Wando Robinson to score this week. And I like kind of Daniel Jones to run all over Carolina this week on critical third downs, second and long, kind of to use his legs to shred this Carolina, defense, and kind of be that Carolina Reaper. Let me see what I did there. And kind of shredding, this Carolina defense and getting this Giants a win. This team needs a win. Brian Daboll is one of the, better coaches in the league. He is not going to put up with losing to Carolina, Justin, especially in Germany. Overseas, I just do not see I do not see Daboll kind of, going with that. And I do think that the reason they win this week is through the legs of Daniel Jones and him finishing number 1 this week in fantasy.
I think if he can pull off this feat and do as well as you're saying, he should get the title of the Carolina Reaper. I like that a lot. And obviously, being a quarterback 1 is not Daniel Jones's, forte per se. But hey, they're in Germany, and we always know that the international games are weird. I would describe it as weird and unique, but it's still a very good matchup. The Panthers have struggled this year. I know they did good against Derek Carr last week, but that was Derek Carr, and they had no weapons to throw to besides Kamara. But Malik Neighbors, Wandale, Slayton didn't get traded, so he's sticking around.
Oh yeah.
So I like all the weapons around Daniel Jones. I expect a really good week. We'll see if he gets to quarterback 1. Moving to our last bold takes of the week, our spiciest take, our blazing. We're going crazy here. We might have to get some wings though. I really like that. This is a shout out to B-Dubs, Pluckers. I don't even know what other one. Wingstop. Let's do it. Let's hook it up. I would love that. And now I kind of want some wings. I'm kind of hungry. Anyway, with this spiciest take, I have a battle of tight ends, and I have that we're going to get a combined 200 yards and 4 touchdowns between George Kittle and Cade Otton this week. So I think both of them reach 100 or more, and they both score a pair of touchdowns each. Looking at Tampa Bay, that's kind of all that Baker has in the passing department. So Cade Otton, I expect to get a plethora of targets. And then if you look on the Kittle side, yes, Debo's coming back or is at least more healthy for this game, and McCaffrey's back, but Kittle's tight end 1 on the season, so he's been balling. He's been getting those touchdown opportunities, and I just expect 2 tight ends that know they're amongst the best in the league. They're gonna go at it, and they're gonna go for 200 plus and 4 plus TDs.
Yeah, Justin Kittle is having a great season this year. He's leading the 49ers in receiving yards, leading them in receiving touchdowns. And so, he's going to continue to stay hot there. So I definitely love Kittle there. But also on the other side, Justin, Cade Otton, one of the more surprises of the league. People forget that he was a guy that Tom Brady never really looked at when Tom Brady was the quarterback of the Buccaneers. And surely enough, he is dominating with Baker Mayfield. And, Kate Otton is climbing up the ranks of leading this Buccaneers in receiving yards. He's, I would say, 100 and, 45 yards behind Godwin, who's unfortunately out for the year. And, he has 4 touchdowns on the year, 44 catches. I mean, Justin, he is literally a tight end now that going into next year, we're going to be looking at Kate Otton as one of those top 5 to 6 tight ends that we're going to be drafting in the 5th or 6th round. You don't have to go crazy on him and draft him early like people did with Sam Laporta this year. But, Justin, his past couple games, hear this out. Look, last Monday night, he had 11 targets for 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. The week before, 10 targets, 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The week before that, 10 targets, 8 catches, 100 yards. And then the week before, he had a touchdown with only 6 yards. But still, he had a touchdown. So he has been very hot right now for this Tampa Bay offense. I don't really say that's spicy, but it's spicy. But Justin, you want to get spicy Buffalo Wild Wings? Let's combine the blazing and the absolutely sriracha habanero, the Carolina egg, the hot chip challenge kind of crushed in there. And let's go with Denver. Yes, I picked Kansas City to win. However, let's get hot. Let's get the milk. Let's throw some ice cubes in that milk because I do think that Denver upsets Kansas City this week. It's due. It is due, Justin. It is due. Looking at this Chiefs team play, I predicted them to have a nearly undefeated season. But Justin, you got to think about it this way. This is Sean Payton. He's got a lot of pride. This is a Broncos defense it's upcoming. And shout out to my guy Jordan out there. He's probably watching somewhere. He's hoping, they got dominated last week in Baltimore. I mean, absolutely dominated. And it's tough for me to believe that a team that's up and coming gets dominated back-to-back weeks. I could be wrong. And Justin, this is some of the worst football Patrick Mahomes is playing. I mean, they're winning, but they're not winning convincingly, Justin. I don't know if you can agree with me on this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously the Chiefs are riding some injuries with Rashee Rice out and Juju out and Pacheco out. And, we haven't even seen Hollywood Brown hit the field with them. But it's just something about this Chiefs team. They don't have the hunger that they used to. It's just something's missing. You could make the argument that maybe 2 Super Bowls have kind of lost their edge. And if they were to play Detroit right now in the Super Bowl or maybe Baltimore in the AFC title game, I do think that they lose both those matches because those teams are hungry. It's kind of like the Eye of the Tiger, kind of like, a Rocky 3 thing where Rocky's dominant. He's won so much. There's a guy in Mr. T, Clubber Lang, who's eyeing. I don't know if you've seen Rocky 3. Dewey Nation, if you haven't, go see the Rocky series. But this Kansas City team has lost a little bit of their edge. Something's off. Just something. I can't quite put my finger on it. So give me Denver with Patrick Surtain defense, bugging Patrick Mahomes. This is a Sunday game, not a Sunday night game. I do like the Chiefs to win something like that. But this is a Sunday game that's not going to get a ton of attention. And I do think the Broncos kind of feel that a little bit of a pressure lifted off of them. They have nothing to lose, Justin. Absolutely nothing to lose. And that's what makes it dangerous. Bo Nix is playing at a high level. You could make the argument if Jaden Daniels wasn't, drafted, he could be in the conversation for offensive rookie of the year, potentially. But give me Denver. I know I picked Kansas City in rapid picks, but my bold prediction, part of me feels that Denver upsets Kansas City by scoring 27 to 31 points there in Arrowhead. I'm a little concerned for Kansas City.
I mean, this is very, very spicy. Obviously, Denver always plays the Chiefs somewhat tough, but the Broncos haven't beat the Chiefs in Kansas City at Arrowhead since September 17th of 2015. Almost 10 years of Chiefs domination at home. And the way we saw Denver get smoked by Baltimore last week by 31 points makes this take wildly spicy. I can't see it happening, but this is the spiciest take that you've had maybe all season. This is pretty hot. But hey, you never know. I mean, we've seen Denver's offense click at certain points of the season, and the Chiefs struggle at some points in the season. Plus, there's always two sides of an argument where a team wins a really hard, like a a heavy emotional game like this overtime win that the Chiefs went through, and they take a backseat like they're like, oh, we won, like we're good. And then there's also others that are like, we won, and they keep riding the hot hand. So we'll see. The Chiefs could be on the latter side or the the first part of it, which is something. And then what I usually always see is a team that gets smoked, like the Broncos did. They really look internally and they're like, hey, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. Let's clear that up this week. So I like that. That's gonna be something I'm looking out for on Sunday. It'll have my attention for sure. But Dwayne Nation, thank you guys for listening. That was our bold predictions for Week 10, our spicier, and spiciest takes of the week. So thank you guys for listening. We have one more episode this week. If you're a college football fanatic like we are, we're gonna discuss the top 25 teams in the top 25 that have a matchup this week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening, and Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dewey Nation, this was our bold predictions. I want to give a free shout out to Buffalo Wild Wings there. I want to say they do have a special on some boneless wings, so potentially we're looking for some partners out here in Dewey Nation. And we love our chicken wings here, Justin. You and I, boneless, bone-in, drums, flats, whatever. We love all flavors. Justin and I occasionally like to eat at Buffalo Wild Wings, when our cousins from Germany comes to town. So we love our Buffalo Wild Wings. So a little bit of a free shout out and a future, hopefully, sponsorship there, because we like to go spicier and spiciest. And there's just nothing like it, Justin. On a Sunday afternoon, you're watching your favorite teams play. You got your fantasy lineups. You got your parlays. And you got a big plate of chicken wings right next to you there, Justin. Nothing better than that. So thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. Let us know what you think. Are we wrong? Are we right? Are we crazy? Are we actually in the right here? We want to know there, because this is what bold predictions all about. It's about getting crazy there. So Dewey Nation, love you guys. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.